I was teaching English in Thailand about 10 years ago and ended up marrying one of the English teachers at the department there. And we came to Canada with the concept that she's going to get her education, we're going to go back to Thailand, live happily ever after when she finished her university here. In Canada, in 1 year, she was diagnosed with lupus. Anybody know what lupus is? Okay. And she went from being a vibrant English teacher, new to Canada, all exciting and everything, down to hospitalized, went from 48 kilos to 75 kilos, and in a period of 2 years, she was on 17 medications. So at that time, I was pretty much a Homer Simpson myself. Pizza and beer and donuts was a staple diet for me. So we figured out that medication was doing as much damage as the disease was. So we figured out, I thought there's got to be some way besides medication to get her out of there and to get her, because we still have to get back to Thailand. So long story short, she actually said in the hospital, I can't take any more meds, because she was on 4 IVs, 2 in her arms, 2 in her legs. She couldn't swallow because of the lesions in her mouth and down into her stomach. So we ended up signing papers and documents saying we're going to stop medication because she can't take it, and that resulted in the hospital and the doctors from any responsibilities. And we noticed the more she backed up medications, the better she got, and the better she became. So when she got down to a mere 5 or 6 medications, we took her out of the hospital. So at this point in time, I'm thinking, okay, it's not the medication that's going to do anything, there's got to be something else. So that's where my little journey of health began too, because I started researching nutrition, diet, there's 2 concepts, and supplements. And everything she would do, I would put into her body, I would try it. So my health started changing and she started improving. But in the meantime, her kidneys shut down because of the medication. So we had to bring her sister over from Thailand, and she had a kidney transplant. And at that point, she was down to about 3 medications, and she was well. You met her when she was well. She was doing okay. She was walking around, she was on her bike, but her hair was still a disaster. She has long, beautiful hair. Her hair was just nothing, strands, dry gray strands of hair. She was still quite swollen, but she was well. She was okay. She had a kidney transplant, and we were quite happy with that. And she was down to, like I said, I think about 4 or 5 medications. So she was okay. So everybody was happy. She survived lupus, and she was on the medications. Then introduced Auum. Along came Auum. And so at this point, my health had gone quite well too, because I was becoming a health nut, and I was exercising and had a much better diet. And so she started taking the Auum. I started taking the Auum, she started taking the Auum. And that saw an incredible dramatic change where it pushed her up over the level. Her hair grew back in. She's now down on 1 medication. She runs regularly with me. She rides her bike. She is now back in university. She just got invited to the Golden Key, I think it's called, because she graduated her first year with an A+ average. And her health is as good as anybody I can possibly imagine. That whole journey took 10 years. The last 2 was the most significant. When she hit the Auum, it was just like overdrive and up and over. And so that's basically my story with the Auum. Is the last 2 years were just incredible. And besides her, she's on 1 medication. We have to take it, or the doctor will refuse to. The doctors hate us, by the way. The doctors absolutely hate us in Sunnybrook. But the nurses love us. The nurses are like, yeah, but the doctors are like, you should be taking medication. Like, no, because all your blood results are good. So last year I ran half marathon, 16K, 10K, and 2 crazy races. I've run ski hills with 90-pound weights. And that's a long ways from being Homer Simpson a few years back. So that's what's happened in the last 2 years with me and Auum, personally.
Did you notice any change in your brain functions, like in your clarity?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, much better, much better. My job at work, I work in the pharmaceutical industry.
He's wearing a tie.
I'm a walking hypocrite. My job is very intense, because we got to keep control of things down to 1,000 per gram, and I control over 60,000 products and 30 people, and my mind's got to be going all the time. So since I've been on the oil gas, things are much easier.
Do they know you're taking the oils?
They hate me. They hate me, and I'm known as coach at work, because I've got this little infiltration of people going to work on, Doug, I got a bad back, Doug, I got a flu, Doug, what am I going to do? After work, we can talk on this. So I've got now, I've got, there are about 10 or 12 people at work that are taking the product regularly. Make a quick spool for the oil.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Best friend Terry, she was a truck driver, severe migraines. I never knew that migraines were that bad. She used to tip over and pass out and puke. Anyway, she used to spend her weekends in the bathtub of ice water for 15 years. For 15 years she did. She tried everything from acupuncture to Zen meditation and everything in between. 3 months on the oil. And now she's dedicated. She won't touch the oil. She's been doing that for over a year. My sister, doctors wanted to operate on her knee. She had hip pain. She couldn't drive her car. And her skin and her hair were a disaster. And she had IBS. She stopped going to public functions because her stomach used to make so many noises. So she kept giving me phone calls. What else does this do? And I would go to Cheryl. What else does this do? So her hair is now silky smooth. She's a commercial. She's a walking testimony of this. Her knee is fine. She rides bike again. She mows the lawn with a push mower. She could drive a car forever and a day. And her monthly cycle is back. And she's fine. So that's over. Another good co-worker at work, Al, stopped for, he's trying to help his prostate, and he came back going, I had a really strange side effect. My knees and my back don't hurt anymore. So he's a dedicated one.
Good side effect. Good one. Good one.
And then Dave, another friend of mine, another co-worker, Dave, 30 years of injection.
The injection is freedom.
30 years of allergy injection. 30 years.
Yeah.
Started on the oil a year ago, just went through his first season.
Yeah.
No shots.
No shots.
No allergies, no flus, no
The
colds.
shots are awful.
He actually ended up in the hospital because he spoke at the last convention. He said he ended up in the hospital because his eyes, the film,
Mhm.
were like closing his, so he couldn't,
From ours.
from
From
the allergies.
allergies. So he just went through an entire year of no injections, no allergy reactions, no flus,